can often be a hard life, or hill in jail to rove and always move from town to town. And some folk have inquired if ever we grow tired of ranging all around the world and never settling down.
But one should be a little wary of remaining stationary. 'Cause comfortable is lovely, but it's not the way we grow. When life starts to unravel, pick up your pack and travel. You'll find a strange serenity in places you don't know. Wriggle-dee-dum-dee-too-da-terry-o-dee. There's so much to see beyond the open door. It's outward bound we go. Who knows what we'll find that we've never found before. Adventures waiting further down the road. It's waiting for you further down the road. You've got no map for showing which direction you are going.
But why start on a journey if you know where it will end?
And once you recognize,
to anticipate surprise, you'll relish every twist and turn that lies around the bend. Wriggle-dee-dum-dee-too-da-terry-o-dee-da-dee-da-dee. There's so much to see beyond the open door. It's outward bound we go. Who knows what we'll find that we've never found before. Adventures waiting further down the road. It's waiting for you further down the road.
the world has got its demons. There are many reasons why you'd find it harder to be brave than be afraid.
But every life could use some danger. Every friend was once a stranger. Ships are safe in harbor, but that's not why ships are made.
Wriggle-dee-dum-dee-too-da-terry-o-dee-da-dee. A fweet-da-dee-da-dee. There's so much to see beyond the open door. It's outward bound we go. Who knows what we'll find that we've never found before. Adventures waiting further down the road. It's waiting for you further down the road. Adventures waiting further down the road.
Let's go!
Greetings, friends, and welcome to another episode of Gothic Horror Gaming here on Nat 21 Adventures. I am your host, the Gloom Master, Tom Zadoyko. I am joined today by my wife, Handler Z.
Hi, I'm a creepy clown.
Indeed. And tonight we also have an extra guest has joined us, Dana, Lady Dana, you might recognize her from several of our streams in the past. Most recently, she played the good wife, Gooden, in our most
Hello.
recent adventure.
And of course, one of the pups behind me. The other
Yay!
pup somewhere.
Like, that was such a fun moment to have last week of just like, oh, great, there's dogs fighting in the background. This is wonderful. And everyone's just like, oh, and the wolves are howling. They're howling in the background as they're growling behind you. Loved it.
So obviously, we are not gaming tonight. We're taking a little bit of time off. Handler Z and I are getting ready to go down to Florida from where we live in Pennsylvania.
Yes, which means that next week we will not be broadcasting. We'll be doing the traveling.
But then after that, we will start back up again. Handler Z is going to run a Delta Green game.
Yes, and I think that Dana will also be involved in that one.
I will.
Excellent.
Revisit my my teenage years. Maybe.
Before we get going too far into anything, I do want to take a moment and thank our sponsors. As always, our perennial sponsor is Ren Adventures at renadventures.com.
Oh, I gotta find it. Hang on.
They are doing a tour coming up in England and Scotland where you tour castles during the day and then at night play Dungeons and Dragons in those castles. That's July 7th through 14th. Space has either filled up or is filling up fast, so check it out.
Yeah, I think as of last week they had one slot.
One spot left. Very good. renadventures.com. Be sure to check that out there. Oh, thank you for the safe travels comment there, Jay Rinker. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you, Salier, for your. I'm glad you like those vignettes. We'll get into that in a minute. We are our own sponsors here, and what we do, Handler Z and I, we have a Patreon called Quill and Quote, where she writes short horror and science fiction pieces, and then I narrate them, and our Patreons get them delivered to them. And we've compiled the first set of them into a book called Dare. It is available as a Kindle, as an actual paperback, or as an audiobook narrated by yours truly. So you can certainly check them out and go ahead and get yourself a copy if you haven't already, although I think a lot of you already have.
Yes. Also, brand new, we just started doing this past week, and I've been kind of hemming and hawing about actually doing it, but it's not as hard as you think. We started using a TikTok, so you can find us at TikTok/Quill and Quote, where our dear Gloom Master is dramatically. I wonder if I could. Oh, I bet I could upload one of those videos.
I'm sure you could.
Seconds. I'll work on that. But yeah, I'll show you one tonight. I think you'll find it very funny.
I've been doing dramatic readings of ingredients, backs of labels, directions, in odd and unusual and overly dramatic settings.
We also apparently have a whole bunch of books that are collected from the last, I don't know, first century. So I think you did a dramatic reading of a, was it like a Playboy's Guide to Leisure or something like that?
No. It was called Theories of the Leisure Class.
There it is. Thank you. Written
in the 30s, I believe. No, it was before that because it's before 1927. And it is, about people with enough wealth that they don't have to work. But it's done the whole book is done in a very, it's a practical guide. If you are wealthy enough that you don't have to work anymore, here are some things you can do.
I wish I needed something like that.
Right?
Right? And it's some like weird stuff. Like I think the thing you read was about fashion.
Yep, about what is good taste in fashion. From like the 1919 or era or somewhere around in there.
It was so weird. And I was like, okay, this is funny as hell. Like we need to do something with this.
I collect old books, so I have very strange things. One of these days I'm going to pull out the book. It's called Our Cuban War. And it is a book about the Spanish-American War written the year after it ended. So it is very propagandic, very, very odd. I have another one that's a history book for high school students that was written in 1919, and the one phrase that was in it that stuck out in my mind that I still remember. It's referring to the American troops arriving and fighting in World War One, and they're talking about the battle at Belleau Wood, and the phrase was, and this is a high school textbook, mind you. It said, "Our boys gave the Hun a good drubbing." That's in the history book.
Yes.
Wow.
It's wild.
This is
Wow.
ridiculous.
Yeah. So I'll break those out someday. But tonight, what we are looking at doing is we thought we'd open it up to all of you. If you have any questions about the last game we had, I have all of my notes here with me in case I need to reference them. Or anything about role-playing games, about how we created adventures. This last one we just did, many of you helped me write it. And that was amazing. I will probably do that again at some point
Yeah, that was a
in the
ton of
not
fun.
too distant future. Because that was great. All of you contributing, and then we created the adventure together was fantastic. We'll probably do that again not too long from now. Also, we answer questions. We are all performers here on Nat 21 of some stripe or another. We travel Renaissance fairs. Handler Z and I are, as I mentioned, we are off to Florida to perform at Renaissance fairs. I have a sword fighting show I'm doing down there, Buckle and Swash. Handler Z has her singing show, Chase Treasure. So if you have questions about Renaissance fairs or life on the road, feel free to throw them up in the comments. Blech. Also, if you have questions about horror or gaming or whatever, we are more than happy to answer questions. Okay, first question. Did the last game follow your plans significantly or branch off a great deal from where you expected it to go? Well, what we actually did, we created the adventure together with suggestions from a lot of people online, and then waited a couple weeks, made sure none of the players had seen those episodes, and then we did it. So I have in my adventure plans, this sheet of paper is the entire adventure. And half of this sheet of paper was blank when we started. I'm very much improviser. So I had all the basic notes, the basic who's, and like what happened. But as far as how things unfolded, I let that be determined by the player's choices. So what I had was that we had Martha Corey, the Salem person who was executed in real history at the Salem witch trials, was actually a witch. Her spirit was infused in a rope that she was hung with, and then her descendant used that rope to transfer her spirit into an unwitting young girl, and then they perpetrated vengeance murders on descendants of the judges and such from the Salem witch trials. That is basically all the notes I had starting the adventure. I had the names of the first two victims. I had the name of the girl who was taken over, and the place where they were starting. And then the rest of the time, when they encountered people, I just made notes and saved them from session to session. So they ran into a printer, Ambrose Smith. I made him up on the spot. I was like, oh, I need to get them this information. Here's a good way to get them this information. This guy walks in. Great. I better write his name down because they'll run into him again later. Same thing with Dr. Carlisle, the one who did the attending. I didn't have a footman planned for the Taylor family, but I was like, oh, I need somebody to transfer information. So I created Hawkins as the
Oh God, everybody thought someone that was suspicious. Everyone was like,
no, not at
Hawkins,
all. He was
something's
totally
up with
made up on the
Hawkins. What the
spot.
hell happened to him? And I was like, I really don't think this guy is important, dude, but okay.
No, he is absolutely was totally made up.
My gosh.
And then when I got to Taylor had been hung by his own intestines out in the woods, I was like, oh, how did he get out? I said he was out riding around his side of his property. Crap, that means there's a horse. What am I going to do with that? what am I going to do with that horse?
Oh no!
What am I going to do with this horse? So
This
then that's
subplot was improvised.
Oh.
yeah, the whole horse thing.
Oh, that poor
Poor
horse.
Lightning.
We were
Poor
so
Lightning, the lazy horse. He was totally. I made him up as we went. I had no. Yeah, Revenge Lightning, the lazy horse. He was a total add-on. I was just like, oh, I mentioned a horse. That's a loose end. I've got to do something with that horse.
My God, people were so upset about the freaking horse. And I had to keep putting up the alert of like, by the way, this is a horror game. Like, it's going to involve dead animals. Like, be ready for this. And people were like, oh my God, they killed the horse. Oh my, I had no idea you had made that up.
Oh, man.
Yeah, totally made it up. A question from Monroe Max. Did you let any of the players know they could have saved the little girl if they used the noose timely? I had it in so I mentioned it that he had a book of occult things, which eventually then Dan's character took the book and kept it at the end. I don't know if anyone caught that.
Yes. Yeah. I was like, oh, that's going to be a plot device later.
Yeah, I'm probably going to weave that back in somewhere around.
Oh.
But had they looked through my initial plan was that the players would eventually get to Martin Rich's place and find the book, go through it, find out what it was, and then thereby deduce that they could reverse it by using the rope.
Oh.
They never, but they spooked Martin Rich to leave by confronting him.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think they were going to do that. So I was like, oh, well. And I was trying to figure out a way to get them weave that in. I'm like, well, it's tragic regardless because, they're not going to be able to save them. I think good horror has elements of tragedy in it.
Yes.
So
I love how people think you actually give us clues. I mean, that we pick up on.
You do sometimes.
Sometimes you pick it up.
I usually have to hit you over the head with them.
Yeah, you do.
But then there are other times when I am trying to hide something from you, and you guys guess it immediately. Like Dan going, "Oh, Salem witches," and I'm like, "God damn it, Dan!"
Because he lives in upstate New York.
He does live in
knows about
upstate New
shit.
York.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yes, Hufflepuff 889. There are puppies behind Dana. Those
Yes.
are Dana's
Yeah,
puppies.
but if you watch any of my games that I run, I almost never have more than this for the games.
See, I can't do that because of all the different players' abilities. What I prefer to do is have everything printed out in front of me so I can be like, okay, Dana, your character is this and it does these things. So, well, you got like a 40% chance to roll this correctly. So let's see how it goes. Like, I don't like not having the physical information in front of me to make every reference that I need to.
Well, part of that is the type of game systems that
Sure.
we're running.
Yeah.
Because I'm running the over the edge rules, which is incredibly simplistic. You have 3 traits. That's it. I don't have a lot of stats we have to read.
Do you remember that too?
Oh, yes.
That did happen. And Dana, you were on that game as well, right?
Yes.
Oh my God.
You were
That
not
was-
who I shot, though. Who did I
No,
shoot?
that was
No.
Katie.
Yeah, you shot
Bourbon.
Katie.
Katie Bourbon. That's right.
She was supposed to be like the stealthiest, and she was like an FBI agent or something.
She
And
kept
she-
tripping over shit.
Oh yeah, she just tripped like she was trying to sneak into this house and like kicked a garbage can or something. I was like, why? Why are you
Well,
the spy?
We were. So I came in as a guest as your final villain
Yes.
because I could do a good German accent.
Yeah,
And,
because I was like, okay, this is going to be fun. They're not going to expect this. I need someone who can do a good German accent. We've been going through this point, like actually trying to fight Nazis. Like, okay, let's bring in a German dude. So it helped that Tom is really good at a German accent.
Well, yeah, and you hadn't been involved in the game before that.
Right.
So all of a sudden your voice comes out and like literally we all kind of looked at each other virtually with a, oh shit.
Oh yeah, Elle had been running all the comments in the background too, because you were doing something. You were like gone. I don't remember where you were, but you couldn't help for a couple of days doing the streams. So they were used to Elle, Lady Elsa,
Yep.
who's with Chase Treasure, doing all the background stuff. Oh yeah, Rev Tommy
Did I
says
do
there
that
is a
from a
clip.
hotel room, maybe.
I think so. I don't remember where you were, but you came in to do
I
that.
might have been driving back from Washington.
That was the time you were going cross country.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I did it. I did it on my trip back. I had to stop at a hotel and do that ad lib in there. Yeah.
Oh my God, that was fun though.
Yeah, that clip was great because that look, I mean, just everyone.
I'm like, didn't that accident save? Okay.
Which accident? Oh yes. No, you're right. Katie Bourbon's character was going
Talking about it.
to. Her plan was to tie up all the loose ends by killing everyone at the end.
Yeah, and that's the fun thing about Delta Green is that all of these, I mean, especially in that original version. So in the Delta Green system, in the Delta Green universe, prior to like 1960 or 1970, you could have been actually a Delta Green agent, and then eventually the agency is disbanded. And I can't remember if Katie was an agent with DG or just an FBI agent, but the thing was you're supposed to eliminate all vectors. That was the point. That was the mission, was eliminate all vectors. So her character was like, okay, that means I have to kill the other people that I'm working with. And she was ready. And then she just, I think she got a machine gun to the face or something like that. Like, it was bad.
Yeah. Well, she got a blast of submachine gun rounds to the face because we were on opposite sides of a kitchen island. And
by the way, this content is
I think she flubbed her roll to sneak around the side, and you determined that she basically like tripped and fell like face first, like just laying there. And I was like, oh hi, blap. And that was the end of that.
Yeah. Oh, but I knew that the hard thing about when characters die is that you kind of acknowledge in a horror game that'll probably happen, but you're trying to do it in such a way that it's going to be towards the end of the session, the end of the adventure, whatever it is, so that you're not killing off somebody in the middle of an adventure and then have them have to recreate a new character when we're going to do something that's only 4 sessions long.
Yeah, it's different if you're playing a D&D campaign you're playing for months and months. Then fine.
Well, even in Nat 21 in their regular stream, I know that sometimes characters will die off, but there's usually a full season, so you're expecting to do multiple episodes for probably 2 months. So at that point, oh gosh, my character died. Well, then I can come back as some other something, or, especially with all the irreverence that happens with Nat 21, you can come back as your character's third brother over and over and over again. I have to bring this up because Dana will appreciate it too. If Alex ever dies, the chat will revolt. Alex has been in our games too.
Alex has been in some of mine. Yeah. He was Jasper.
Oh my God, everyone freaking loved Jasper.
Jasper's what was the name of that rock up in the Upper Peninsula?
Jasper's Knob.
Jasper's Knob. It's a real place. It's a very real place.
And that turned into a string of jokes while you guys were investigating something. Oh my God. I forgot.
So Monroe is asking another good question. If you have any repeat characters, is there any mechanism to give them better abilities for their experience? I know Delta Green has something for it.
Yeah, so, and I was talking about maybe doing that as the first session for this coming thing. So there is a mechanic called the home session, and that usually happens if you're going to play the same characters through multiple things. Now that's a better or worse thing. In home sessions, you can use you start with a bunch of bonds. So you might have like your stepbrother, your mom, your priest, your soccer team. If you spend time doing activities with those bonds, you can potentially re-strengthen them. So if you pulled points from your soccer team in order to not die in an adventure, maybe the bond points in that team are like way low. So you would, in a home session, say, okay, I'm going to try to re-strengthen this bond. I'm going to play a soccer tournament. And then we go through the whole process of, okay, let's see how that goes and how things happen. And you still kind of have to roll for it to an extent. But that can sometimes help your character. Sometimes it doesn't go well. If you are playing soccer and you have a certain athletics ability and you roll poorly, then I can say, yeah, you did play soccer with your friends, but unfortunately, you didn't play really well, and they're mad at you because you've been missing so many practices. So your bond score's going to go down further. Like that, the mechanics in Delta Green are real interesting with stuff like that.
As far as my games, the over the edge rules do have a mechanic for experience points. And the way it works in the over the edge system, I believe you get like a bonus die, a number of bonus dice to use per session. Much like the helps that you guys are giving on the Twitch stream are.
Okay.
So that's how Over the Edge uses their experience. I haven't really played around with that yet because I believe in the rules as written, it's you get an extra die to just roll an ad, which is great, but I'm worried about making it too powerful, especially since we're only doing small little sessions. Now, I probably should have tried implementing that in our 1800s game that
Yeah, I was
that
going to
ran
say
for
for
a long
something that was
period.
like a extended period one. Maybe.
Yeah, I should have probably used it for that. So if I run another campaign that's going to be that length, I will do that. If we do in fact get our characters from this last Salem game back for another game, which we're talking about doing,
That sounds really fun.
maybe I'll institute that for their experience for having done everything, they get one die that they get to roll to add to any one thing, and it's not even just pick the highest. It's like you actually just get to add that.
Ooh.
But that might be only one for the entire adventure, so you'd have to, just to make it things
really pick that. That was I don't know if you guys have ever played sessions, because Dana, I know you play a lot of D&D type stuff too. My best friend Ben, who is in the FBI, he does a coin system where if you usually before a session for Starfinder is what we play, he'll review a bunch of information, and if you can figure out the puzzle or what he's trying to get across in the plot before he actually brings it out, he'll give you a coin. And then he has 3 different levels. I know the gold coin is the hardest to get, and that's usually you're about to sacrifice your life to save the lives of another character or other characters. And if you somehow survive it, you can get a gold coin for doing stuff like that. Or I think bronze coins are the ones that he usually gives out, and that's for stuff like, hey, you figured out the plot line real quick.
Now, how do you spend those coins though?
Bronze coin is a re-roll, I think, that you have to declare beforehand, so you can roll for the same skill twice.
And this is all a D20 system.
Yeah, that's Starfinder, so that's a regular D20 system. I think the silver coin is silver coin was maybe like a bonus die or something like that. I never get silver coins.
Gold is an automatic 20 though, right?
Yeah, gold is like a take 20 on a skill that normally you couldn't possibly. In any given situation, like a gold, if you threw a gold down, would be like, you succeed at this. So, in crucial elements where you're like, okay, we are about to get exploded unless I do something drastic here, you can throw down a gold coin. But I like stuff like that where if someone comes up with like a cool, like in a for instance from the last game, if Dan's character, came up with oh, hey, this is all from Salem, you could start the next adventure by being like, and Dan gets a bronze coin because he figured out that this was all having to do with Salem. So I think that might be a fun mechanic to throw in.
Yes. Dana needs a gold coin to shoot something. That's correct. For those of you who are new, who do not know, every character that Dana has ever played
that had a gun. Every character that had a gun specifically. Because she's played other characters now that didn't have guns, and she did great.
And here's the thing. In the D&D campaign I've been part of now for going on 3 years, she also cannot shoot range weapons at all. I mean, it's just a thing. It's crossbow, guns. I don't know what it is.
That's right, Sir David Percival. She was great with a knife, though.
Yeah,
That game.
Comfort knew her stuff.
I want to go back. Jay Rinker. Will we continue in period Salem? I mean, we were in Virginia, and we were actually after Salem. It was 1764, and Salem witch trials were the 1690s. If I do it, it's going to be a couple years later, but not many. Like maybe 10 years down the line, because I'm thinking maybe it's during the Revolution.
Yeah, that'd be really
is
fun.
where we'll pick up with our players again, like 11 years on, 1775, when the revolution is just breaking out, or maybe even a few years later, so we're deep in the war. But that's when I think we will. If I bring these guys back, that's where we'll jump back in to see where these characters have been and what they've been doing for the past 10 years.
And just so everyone's aware, the last time we did a full season sort of multi-tiered event where the same characters kept coming back to do things, I think it went over the course of like 3 to 5 years in terms of timeline.
In game years.
Yeah, in game years. And eventually, I think they fought H.H. Holmes, or a demon that H.H. Holmes had summoned and burned down the murder castle in Chicago. So if you're looking for some like an idea of what we tend to do as game masters, this is how we roll.
So that whole campaign arc started that I set it in. It was our very first game here on Gothic Horror Gaming.
Yeah,
and I set it in the 1870. I forget off the top of my head. It
was later than that. I thought it was the 1890s because we got.
That's where we ended.
Okay.
It was maybe like 1780. I mean 1880. I'm sorry.
Mistake. I feel like it was a little bit late into the Victorian.
It was like 1878 or 1880, somewhere right around in there. And the first adventure was just a one-off, and they were in Ireland, and they were they were just all happened to be stuck at a bed and breakfast in Ireland when all this supernatural stuff happened. It went so well that we decided to keep with those characters. So the next adventure, I had them in. They became part of a supernatural fighting organization called Save, and they ended up in Michigan, I believe was the next one. And then then they were in Louisiana for another one, but it was the organization that they were a member of provided the glue to have them come back together again and continue over the span of 10 years. And as these adventures, after the second one, I had the overall plot in mind to eventually events were happening around the United States, and slowly it zeroed in onto Chicago. And then turns out that the demon in Chicago that H.H. Holmes, the serial killer, had summoned was responsible for all this extra supernatural activity. So the Irish adventure was kind of like the prelude. This is how all these characters met. It's like the James Bond Casino Royale where he kills the guy in the bathroom in black and white. That's not really part of the main story. So that was what that Irish story sort of became, and then we went into the main thing. Oh yes, and Alex with his poor broken magic coat that no longer produced the gold coin. The coat never produced the gold coin. The leprechauns produced the gold coins and hid them in his pocket.
Yeah, there was a magic coat, and Alex's character.
The coat was not magic.
Okay. Alex believed that the coat was magic, and he stole it off a corpse. But that made sense because he was representing the British Museum.
True.
And at one point, I think he fought a mummy, didn't he? They had like an actual mummy because he was helping to set up the World's Fair exhibit in Chicago, and then they brought in a mummy, and a bunch of people were dying, and he's like, "Oh my, this might be a bad plan." I don't know what the heck the accent was that he was using. It was like British fop, but also speaking between your teeth at all times.
And very sarcastic.
Very sarcastic. Oh,
So
him and
intense British fop.
yeah, Arthur Rowan played an Irishman, and the two of them would like fight, like all like come to verbal blows every once in a while, and it was awesome. Like, what a cool thing.
But then their characters saved each other's lives at
Yeah.
different points.
And people were like, this was like a will they, won't they kind of ship in the background. Of
Yeah,
everyone being like,
yeah.
oh my God, are they going to hook up? Is this like an illegal romance in the Victorian era? I'm so into this. Like, people were so into the two of them potentially being romantic allies. And then there was another person who came in that, there's Ryan's character. Oh my God, Ryan's
As St. John St. John.
St. John St. John, who was a lumberjack from Canada. Who had encountered a skinwalker? No, a Native American.
The Wendigo.
The Wendigo had encountered a
Oh.
Wendigo. And then Arthur was unavailable for a while for a lot of different reasons. And then Ryan came on as St. John, and then they started shipping Alex with St. John. They're like, never mind, forget the Irishman. You can have a Canadian. Yes. So they would activate lumberjackness on a regular basis.
Lumberjackness deployed.
It was my favorite thing. It was the funniest thing in the world. I loved that. I think we still have some of those on YouTube. I hope that we have some of those games up on YouTube on Nat 21. Please check them out if you get a chance. They're very funny.
Yeah.
That was a great series.
So to answer Monroe's question about the offer, the Revolutionary War started battle sites that offer good possibilities. This is true. I just have to figure out a logical reason for these characters to be in the same place again.
Yeah.
Which I am, because I don't want to.
Revolution's a great plan.
Save doesn't really exist yet. Oh, it might. It's right around now. I'll have to look up the lore in the Chill universe of when Save actually exists. Because if it does, you're all getting a visit from Arthur Gordon Pym. So,
do we get to have a Gordon Pym backstory? That'd be amazing.
well, you'll just have Gordon Pym in stockings and breeches and full on revolutionary
Appearing out of
powdered wig and everything. He'll just show up. It'll be a nondescript gray powdered wig.
There's a whole thing. Do you want to try reading anything? Or you want to
in a few moments. People are asking questions, so I want to give a chance if anybody else has any other questions about the game, any specific part of any specific game that we've run, or just the games in general, how we put them together.
Dana, I'm curious if you have any questions about running stuff, or if you have any suggestions that we haven't tried yet. We don't rarely get a chance to talk to you in these regards, so please feel free to throw anything our way you'd like.
Yeah, no, not from me right now, but I will.
Of course, I put you on the spot. I'm like,
yeah, it's okay. I am an improv actor. I should be able to pull shit off my head. Oh, that sounds really disgusting, actually.
You've had a lot going on lately. It's okay.
No. No, what really impresses me is how much detail is put into the games, especially the Delta Green games. Just the level of research that you go into is amazing.
That's my favorite part, honestly, is coming up with some of these things. Were you involved in the serial killer one? The Fibonacci serial killer guy?
No.
That one had
not Fibonacci, no.
Okay. So I did a whole thing on the Hound of Angles, which is like a Delta Green mainstay sort of villain scary thing, and a bunch of other stuff too. And in the process of driving across the country to get to Washington State, I was like, okay, I'm going to figure out the entire backstory of everything that's going on in this game. And I listened to a podcast about the game Polybius, which was like a real famous rumored game from the 1980s. And then from there, I was able to extrapolate a bunch of other stuff. And it was just really fun. what's fun about it is the more research that you do, the more these things start to lock into place with each other that you weren't expecting to lock in. Like when I was doing the game from the 1970s, the 1970s in Indiana, and I was just happened to be like, I was like, okay, there was one of those Watch Mojo YouTube videos of top 10 unsolved mysteries we still don't have solved. And one of them was there was a missing Nazi general that like vanished. They still couldn't find him. And they believed that he had gone to Argentina. They found this guy that they thought was him. Turns out it wasn't him. But I was like, okay, that's a cool concept to find how would this happen? And at first I thought it was just going to be you guys are looking for a missing Nazi general. And then things turned a completely different direction when I found a separate Watch Mojo thing about Indiana in the 1980s, Illinois in the 1970s. There was a big protest, like one of the first big like Nazi gatherings. And it was outside of a big Jewish town. I'm trying to remember what it
is
was.
referenced in the original Blues Brothers movie.
Yeah.
That whole I hate Illinois Nazis, that was a real thing.
Yeah.
They had a court case, like it's free speech, and they were eventually allowed to march because it was free speech at the time because of the way they were phrasing things, that they could get away with it. But I do want to address something that Jay Rinker just asked. Did Quakers do medical work during the Revolution? Would they be conscientious objectors? The Quakers in general opposed the Declaration of Independence. They also usually were exempted from militias because they paid an extra tax to not then be in a militia. But there are many notable exceptions, including the famous Revolutionary General Nathaniel Greene. He was you might have remember him from history classes. He was a Quaker, but he felt it was more important to fight for the cause than to maintain his pacifism. So he actually became a leader of men in the war and fought in the war. So again, we can't really make total generalizations about things because there are always exceptions, and that's a prime example. The Quakers in general were pacifists, but some did fight.
I want to address this real quick because this is real fun. It's a good story. So in the process of doing research for the Polybius game and then changing that into like a whole serial killer thing and stuff like that, I was doing the show in Washington State. It's called the Washington Midsummer Renaissance Fantasy Fair? No, Washington Midsummer Renaissance Fair. I know so many. And so I finished up the weekend and I was like, okay, it's Monday. I'm just going to lay down in my Airbnb. I'm going to take a shower and then I'm just going to chill out. I'm exhausted. So I just downloaded Discovery Plus, which I highly recommend for people that are into like history and stuff. Like they have a ton of fun things on there. And I was like, okay, well, I just downloaded Discovery Plus. Why don't I watch like something that Tom would never want to watch? So I was like, okay, I'm going to watch like a documentary about a serial killer. It'd be awesome. And for whatever dumb reason, I picked the Green River Killer, not realizing the part of Seattle I was staying in was like 10 miles away from where one of the bodies was found. Like, I'm not kidding when I was like, oh my God, it's about Seattle? Oh no. And then like the further I get into this, the further I was like, oh Lord, oh, this is like right here. Like I'm by the woods, man. This is freaking me out right now. So yeah, true story. I happen to be like 10
and then you wrote a game about it.
Yeah, and then I wrote a whole game about being that close and having been in the Pacific Northwest, and I can be like, oh, okay, now I can set a game. And I think that game was in Oregon, actually. But now I was like, okay, I can set a game comfortably in this area. I know what it looks like. I know what the native peoples call themselves to an extent. Like I have some ideas about how to present things now. But that was just, I had never learned anything about the Green River Killer ever. And then I was like, oh my God, this is ridiculous.
That's what it was. Thank you, Sir David Percival. Save, which is the fictitious supernatural fighting organization in the Chill universe, which is the games I run, founded in Dublin in 1846. Yes, that does ring a bell. All right. So Pim isn't going to show up and help you guys.
Pim could still show up. He just can't represent anything that doesn't exist yet.
Oh, but see, he's got no. Tommy Abbott, Reverend Tommy mentioned it earlier. Gordon Pym is like Yoda. He exists, but no backstory exists for him. He far transcends me. I did not create this guy. I got him from Ryan, who played St. John St. John, as well as many other characters for us now, including Henry the Corrupt Cop. Ryan used to play Chill with Matt Selly, who was our trapper here, back when they were in high school together. And there was a friend of theirs who ran the game.
This is ancient history.
And this is back in like the late 80s. And that friend created this character of Pym. He's mentioned in the lore of Chill, but he's just kind of like, oh, and then this guy was in charge of this stuff, kind of thing. And this friend of theirs, Jeff Walker, who he basically just made this guy a thing and just had him showing up at all these random goofy places and times. Ryan ran some Chill games that I was a part of back in the 90s. And then I just adopted that and just kept it going because it just seems like a lot of fun that there's this guy that just, he doesn't seem quite all there. He's not quite all with it, but he does know everything. And then when the proverbial shit hits the fan, like he is there and like cleans up messes kind of thing. Yes.
I just have to pause for a moment so that we can appreciate Dana's dogs fighting in the background.
That's true.
We really have to actually appreciate this because this happens at least once a stream. And it's brilliant. And everybody loves it. Everyone on the Twitter is just like, oh my God, look at the dogs. Look at the dogs playing. Oh my God, the dogs. I love the dogs. So yeah, we have to acknowledge the amazing moment.
Take to the camera. Well done.
That was really weird. Actually.
That was great. We did a take.
And this is why I change my sheets like 5 times a week.
It's so cute. They're so funny. Oh yeah, hang on. I can make you big. Let me see if I can do that.
Oh.
Yeah, make hers.
Yeah, highlighting the dogs. Woo, dogs.
Now they're just going to flop down. Yep.
Now they're done.
Now
they're done.
Session and Fenrir.
Oh, they're so cute.
Yeah, and then Reverend Tommy, yeah, he just did Pym just disappears into a closet. I just thought that was fun. A fun, goofy little thing. Like,
Oh, I would like to reveal a little bit behind the scenes from the last game session, if I may. So Nat 21 now has a social media person, and I was instructed to, on occasion, send this social media person, who's a soft autumn ingenue on the stream. If you ever see her come up, I was instructed to send her a timestamp of amusing moments that she could potentially use for the TikTok for Nat 21. So just for the heck of last week, I would like to reveal the following things that I sent to this person. 32 minutes in, lucky Jesus foot. I'm trying to remember what all of these were. Yeah, and this is why I was thinking about it. 37 minutes in, Dana's dogs start play fighting in the background adorably. This is consistent. 39 minutes in, Matt Selly steps away from his computer at the perfect moment when Tom needs to bring him back into the stream. That was the best.
His character was out in the woods, and the rest of the players, we talked, and he had as his virtual backdrop forest, and I went to go back to him, and he had stepped away.
We just had forest.
Lost in the woods.
Oh, it was delightful. All right. 59 minutes in, Jefferson is bad at hiding. I think that's what he was trying to hide behind the carriage, and he just fell.
Yes.
1 hour, 9 minutes in, Cotton Nettles accidentally kills someone.
Oops.
Oh yeah, he hit him with a shovel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like hit him so hard. Oh, and then I said that was nearly 2 minutes of gold. Delightful. And I guess you guys were just reacting. It was like, is there anything that we could do? No, he hit him with a shovel. He had like 6 hit points. He's dead. That's it. There's nothing you could do. And then let's see what else. 1 hour 30, Cotton declares a fake attack of opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun. 1 hour 38, the Holy Spirit makes you run faster.
Yes.
That was my contribution. I felt really proud of that because Dan's character was running after somebody, and then I think he was trying to figure out ways to make himself be better at running. And then I suggested the Holy Spirit makes you run faster.
Well, he was arguing for physical traits that his traits that would help him be able to run faster. And then you mentioned that.
And then 1 hour 44, punched by a Quaker.
Punched by a Quaker.
So that's new for the stream, is just the behind the scenes things that I text to Soft Autumn Ingenue. Anyway, do we want to read things? You don't have to. It's totally fine.
Well, if it will give people a chance to, if they want to maybe think about any questions they might have for us, you can feel free to post them over there in the comments about horror, about Renaissance fairs, about gaming, whatever.
About Dana's use of guns.
Handler Z, you did mention something very interesting in passing just a moment ago.
Oh.
You said, "Oh, you were going to watch a thing on serial killers because my husband doesn't necessarily like that." I don't watch much horror.
No.
A little bit here and there. There are certain things that I like, but like
we've been watching the Cabinet of Curiosities. If anybody's
Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities has been delightful. It's very I compared it to The Night Gallery by
hosted by Rod Serling.
Right, yeah, and created by him. Yeah, I haven't watched Pickman's Model yet. That's next on the playlist. As a Lovecraft fan, and I'll read certain horror. Like I love Lovecraft. I enjoyed Bram Stoker's Dracula. His Lair of the White Worm is a little rough, but not polished, well written in my mind. But I'm not a horror movie. Let me say that I'm not a horror movie guy generally.
See, and I'm absolutely the opposite, but I have a hard time watching them by myself. And I am also the type of person who shouts at the television when something happens. So
Sir David Percival, that nails it right there. I like psychological style horror and not blood and gore. Yes. That is exactly where I'm coming from usually.
Fair. Yeah, I appreciate that. And I had a relationship at one point where my ex and I would just sit there and watch like terrible horror movies and just mock them, and that was really fun for me. So I still watch stuff like that, but I grew up watching horror movies. I was always into scary movies. I wanted to watch them all the time. I don't know what's so fascinating about it to me. I am just one of those people that I find like the wrong side of humanity so interesting, and the supernatural and the things that freak you out, I think is fascinating. But I am also the kind of person where I'm like, it's right behind you. Like I will sit in I've done this in theaters too, where I've been like, it's right there. Like people will yell at me in the middle of a show because I can't stop it. I can't help myself. It just happens. but all the time I will sit there and be like, oh my God, that person's been dead the whole time. Like I will say that out loud.
I watched a lot more of the cheesy, gory horror movies when I was in high school,
Because it's
middle school
trendy.
and high school. Like I watched the original Night of the Living Dead when I was in middle school, I think. I was over at my friend's house for a sleepover, and we watched that, and he lived right next to a cemetery. That was creepy. And we watched Hellraiser, the original Hellraiser. We watched
Weird mix of sex and horror. I don't know why I like it so much, but that is great.
The Keep, Rawhead Rex. I watched.
Love some Clive Barker.
And then I got away from all of them, and like I watched Scream, and I was just like, didn't really do it for me. Now you did have me watch the Babadook.
Oh God, that was
very good.
heart-wrenching too.
Yes, that was really good. I really liked that one. And like I liked John Carpenter's The Thing. Again, that's that same time frame. Aliens.
God,
I liked all those. You're talking about you love diaphanous gowns, wandering dark castles. I really liked what was that? Crimson Peak.
Oh yes, that is also a Guillermo del Toro,
and it's Tom Hiddleston,
and Mia Wasikowska and Jessica Chastain.
Yeah, I did enjoy that. We saw that in the theater. I did enjoy that one.
Yeah, that was real fun. Dana, are you into horror movies at all?
So I enjoy them, but I don't have anyone to watch them with, and I'm not real big on watching them alone. Yeah,
you should have told. Okay, next time you go hang out with all the boys out at the restaurant, and then we'll come back and we'll get popcorn.
There you
and
go.
We'll watch
That'll
a
be
scary
fun.
Movie. It'll be great.
Yeah, I mean, I do enjoy it. Let's see. Yeah, I tend more towards the psychological horror than the gory. I don't care for the gore, but also it's more because of my background. It's like, oh yeah, I know exactly what that is. I know what they're doing. Having been on so many movie sets that I'm like, that doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
Where the psychological, like I like having the head messed with.
I want to answer Sir David Percival's question.
Yes.
As Ren Fair performers, have you ever gone out with a bunch of coworkers to see a movie you may have already seen and like MST3K'd it to it? Normally, what we will do is invite friends over and we will watch MST3K episodes.
Yes, that's one of my favorite things.
Or riff tracks. And I will say that back at the old theater I do the Tennessee Renaissance Fair, and a bunch of us all went and watched riff tracks live in Nashville, where they did, what did they do? They did Time Chasers. And so we got to see Time Chasers live. And if you watch the Time Chasers live stream, you can, I think it's the riff tracks Time Chasers live. It's done. It was filmed at there. You can actually catch us. It was myself, Ryan Gelotti, Kimberly Stockton, who was queen at Tennessee and Louisiana. You can see the three of us at the show. So we've never actually, I would feel self-conscious about mocking a movie with other people who maybe haven't seen the movie before in like a public theater. That probably wouldn't be cool. But like certainly doing it amongst ourselves, we do it a lot.
That's the only way I ever got to watch The Room was with the riff tracks. I couldn't watch it otherwise. That is the worst movie I've ever seen.
Oh, The Room? Oh my God.
So bad.
Tommy Wiseau.
It makes no damn sense. It is so ridiculous. It's just so weird.
Well, and the end of that was supposed to be even weirder.
Yes, he's supposed to be like a vampire and like fly away.
He flies away in a flying car at the end.
Yes. And they didn't have the budget.
I'm just impressed that he managed to con enough people out of $1 million to make what he did. They actually made it.
That's a good salesperson right there.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Isn't that was the movie? It was The Con Artist, I thought. With
There is a movie about him doing it, yeah.
I'm trying to remember what it was called, but it was
The Disaster Artist. That's
Artist.
it. Thank you, Becky.
Okay,
Oh,
The
yeah.
Disaster Artist. Yeah, and I thought they won an Academy Award for it, and I thought Tommy Wiseau was also there.
He had a short-lived web show as well, where it was Tommy Wiseau playing video games. The premise of which is he was abducted by aliens, and the aliens are making him play these video games and then observing his reactions as he plays the video games.
I mean,
And
that's Mystery Science Theater. That's what he's doing. It's Mystery Science Theater.
well, except it's him playing video games, and he's playing like one of the hunting games, and he's like, "Why would I want to hurt a little deer in the woods? They're so cute." And but that's the game. Okay, I guess I kill the deer. Bye, deer. Blam. What is going on?
What is this? Oh,
he's either a transcendent genius that none of us can possibly wrap our head around how esoteric he is, or he is such a sham that he's gone beyond
he's gone round the bend.
It's gone all the way around. He's so ridiculous that it's gone all the way around. Watched a bunch of Jurassic Park movies with aviation students and paleontologists.
There's a surprising number of helicopter crashes. Yes,
indeed.
There's a lot.
There are certain movies that Melissa Handler-Z knows I can't watch because I just start yelling at it.
Oh, yeah.
Because I get very nitpicky about certain weird things that I shouldn't.
This was okay. First of all, do yourselves a favor right now and get HBO Max and watch Our Flag Means Death. It's amazing.
Yes, it is.
I loved that show. I was obsessed with that show.
I know exactly what you're about to say.
Yes.
Sorry, you're about to say. Go ahead.
This show has Blackbeard wearing biker leather, and he's wearing almost an exact replica of the Mad Max costume from the 80s. Like Taika Waititi is wearing a Mad Max costume from the 80s. But this guy, for whatever reason, got real mad when someone started fighting with a pistol grip on an epee-bladed sword or something, and he was like,
"Is he hands?
Is he hands fighting with a sword?
Pistol grip, small sword." Pistol grips weren't invented into the 20th century, and
no one can.
It was not so much that; it was that the armorer didn't care. That's what made me mad.
They had a Crown Royal bag on a shovel, and the thing you noticed was the pistol grip on the sword.
Yep.
And he was like, "They never would have had that." I was like, "Babe, what about this?"
Oh, and I love the show. So
one of these characters is wearing Crocs. Like, what is wrong with why?
We all have our lines, and now we know exactly where the Gloom Masters is.
Oh yeah.
So, David, I never watched Deep Blue. I refused to watch it because I knew it would send me into a frenzy. So,
the shark movie.
Yes.
I loved the hell out of that movie. That was fun. It's dumb, but it's fun.
Note for those who do not know me, I was a marine biology major. 3 years. So I get a certain amount.
I am also obsessed with sharks. Otherwise, I wouldn't have run a Delta Green game where like everyone did deep sea stuff and you got to talk about like ever living jellyfish. Like those things are real. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was still my favorite moment in that movie. And this is not a spoiler at this point because this movie's been out for over 20 years. Is Samuel L. Jackson having an epic speech, and then this shark just jumps out behind him, eats him in half, and pulls him back into the water. And I was like, and that was one of those moments where I was like, oh my God, they killed Samuel L. Jackson. Like I screamed that at the TV when we were watching it. Not he and I, this was a different time. And that was one of my favorite moments in that.
Was it as exciting as two dogs fighting behind Dana?
Oh, I wish we gotta see if we could get together at some point and see if my dog might get along with either of your dogs, just because all of his friends are in Philly and my best friend he's an FBI and he might be moving to the Pacific Northwest and taking his dogs with him. So
Oh,
he needs a
probably
friend.
better with Seshet, the little one, because the big one there, Fenrir, he's a German Shepherd Lab mix. He's very territorial
Okay.
and very protective. It took him about a month to get used to Seshet, and now you see, well,
Yeah.
yeah.
She just like, I can fit my whole head, your whole head in my mouth. Watch me try. Watch me try. So cute. How old is she now?
She is,
She's gotta be like
almost
2.
4.
Oh wow. Okay.
I think she's almost 4. She was a rescue from Florida, and he's a failed foster.
Oh.
Yeah.
He's adorable.
I was going to take him in for a year. That was 9 years ago.
He's a delight.
What made me transition from being a marine biologist to a Ren Fair performer?
That's a fair question.
We can blame a specific person if I'm correct.
Several there's a chain of events.
Okay.
I was all through middle school, high school, I was going to be a marine biologist. That's what I wanted to do. I never did theater, anything. Although in my senior year of high school, I was on the stage crew, mainly because it got me out of class for all the assemblies early. Because I'd have to go set up the spotlight or do whatever. I ended up running the lights for our class play. The outside contractor who was hired in liked what I did and said, hey, I've got a one-off gig at this place nearby where you live. Do you want like a 3-day job in the summer? And I said, sure. The guy I was running the spotlight with, I looked over and he looked very familiar. At that point, I had been to the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair a couple times, just visiting. And I said, hey, wait, you were the cannonball catcher at the PA Ren Fair last year. And the gentleman by the name of Dave Sokoviak said, yes, I was. We started talking.
This is back in the 80s when that was an appropriate
No.
character to have.
I'm not that old.
Okay.
I mean, I'm old, but I'm not that old. It was 1991.
91.
And he convinced me to audition for the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair. I had never done anything like that before. I auditioned. They hired me.
You were a Blackfriar first, right?
I was a Blackfriar. And I was a Blackfriar for 3 years. And the entire time, I was going to school for marine biology. My interest for marine biology waned, mainly because my professor was terrible. And the financial aid department lost all of my records at the start of my senior year.
See,
At
that's
that
ridiculous
same
because you have
time-
such a specific name. Like, there's no way that you should
Yeah.
lose something that says that on it. That's dumb.
Oh, they found it later and charged me. But yeah, a big FU to East Stroudsburg University for that. Thank you. And then at the same time, the Renaissance Fair offered me a full-time position. And I walked off that campus and never set foot on it again. And I've been doing Renaissance Fairs pretty much ever since.
You took me there one time. So it's not, you didn't set your foot on it again. You've just gone back much, much later to show me where you used to go.
We never got on campus. We went to the Wawa across the street.
Okay, fair. Fair.
I did not cross that street to the actual campus. I pointed it out to you.
That's
I did
true.
not step over there.
That is true.
Wow.
But yes, Sally, that's how I ended up at Renaissance Fairs. That's the same place where I met Ryan.
That's where you met me.
Where I met my wife, Hen Lizzie, where I've met Dana, where I met Matt Selly, Alex, Arthur, a lot of the people. No, I met Paulo. I was doing the Bay Area Renaissance Fair in Tampa, I think, is when I first met Paulo Garbanzo. He used to live right down the road in St. Petersburg, and he was doing that fair as Paulo Garbanzo. And I think that's when I first met him. That
That's
would
when
have
you
been
still
in
had
like
real long hair
2003 or 2004.
and the boots.
Oh, that's when he had the boots. Mhm.
You were in the Death of the Boots video.
I am in the Death of the Boots video. That is correct. We filmed that at the Louisiana Renaissance Fair. Are there any fairs in early April in PA near Philly?
No, there used to
No.
be. There's been several attempts at a Poconos Renaissance Fair. We've done them. Chase Treasure has done them a couple of times. Twice it snowed.
I was gonna
And
say
that
the last one,
Yeah.
the weather was horrible because we came up to see it, and
Yeah. And there was a Philly Ren Fair that happened for a while in early May, and the same thing happened. It wasn't snowing, but it was catastrophically raining. So yeah, I think there are people that are trying to get the Philly one back up and running, but it doesn't look promising. Everyone I know in the industry isn't making
The
that happen.
earliest one you've got up in this area, in the Philadelphia area, is the New Jersey Fair at the end of May, I
Yeah.
think. There's a
Last
couple of
week of
small
May.
ones in New Jersey before that too.
Yeah, there is an offshoot one that the cast at NJRF usually does. That's at the end of April. That's called Smithville. That's the Smithville Renaissance
That's it. I
Fair
couldn't remember
in
the name of it.
historic Smithville, New Jersey. There are like 3 Smithville, New Jerseys, so be aware that if you look it up, it does exist. It just takes some doing to
is
figure it out.
West Windsor still doing their little fair?
I
West
don't
Windy?
know. If they aren't involving New Jersey anymore.
Oh, okay.
NJRF anymore.
So I know
But,
when I was in Casting, New Jersey, we would do that.
yeah. We used to NJRF had a contract with them for a while, and then I think it's just timing wise they stopped getting involved because there were too many other things going on.
Well, there's that, and again, the weather was never good. It was
Yeah, it
always
was
that's why we
always
called it West Windy because it was always so cold and
Yeah.
so windy.
And there were like barely anyone that would show up
Mhm.
because it was just so cold. Like people just wouldn't be
Yeah.
there. So
Whereas the
Yeah.
Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair used to have the opposite problem. We used to start in July, and it was just so hot.
That was like a 20-week fair at that point.
16 weekends.
Ugh.
It used to be 16 weekends, and we used to perform every Monday in the summer.
Mhm.
So we were open Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, open to the public, all the way through Labor Day. Then after Labor Day, the Mondays turned into the student days.
Yeah, that just gave me the shivers. No, thank you.
Yeah, that was rough. We ended earlier, though. We ended in like the second week of October.
Okay, and now we go to the last weekend in October.
But
But
we start
even now,
a month and a half later.
we're even starting later. Like we're not starting till almost, I think, the last weekend in
It's
August.
August 20th this year, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're going for 11 weekends.
Yes.
Ever since
still-
the pandemic, we cut out 2 weeks.
That is still the longest running festival in the
Yeah.
entire country.
Yeah,
No
as
other
far as
festival
each
runs longer.
season, number of
Yeah.
weeks wise, longest
Yeah,
running.
even Texas. Texas is one of the longer ones because I just did that last year. It runs 8 weeks straight, but even that feels like a slog after a while. A lot of people have gone into a relationship, lost that relationship, found someone else, and started dating someone completely new by the end of the season. I saw that happen in Texas too. Like that is the longer you're in a place at the same time, as much as there is job security, there's also a lot of drama. There's a lot of ridiculous stuff that happens. Like it just gets weirder and weirder the longer.
All
you're
the
in this place.
relationships. Oh, so much drama. It's great.
Yes.
It's very heightened at the PA Ren Fair, the Pennsylvania
Oh,
Renaissance Fair,
Mhm.
because you have a large professional acting company that's
Mhm.
all living together as well.
Yes.
And you train, you are rehearsing for almost a month beforehand, and you're
Mhm,
all living in basically dorm room setting.
mhm.
So
Yep.
there was a time when we were almost 20 weeks together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the Bacchanalian cast at the PA Ren Fair. So yeah, over 20 weeks, you would have relationships blossom, fail, and then rekindle. And then by the time the fair was over, the same people were back together again. But there was like a month and a half in the middle where they were on the outs.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's a lot of that. And it's just doing that show the entire run is extremely, I mean, it's beautiful, but it's extremely challenging. I mean, especially for you, Tom, like, you experience all of the weather changes. So you can have one weekend where it's like 95 degrees out and super, super humid. And then the next week it is 60 and raining, and you still have to do the job, especially for you when you're like doing the mud show there. It's,
Yeah,
oh,
for
it's
those who
so,
do not know, I do the mud show at the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair as well.
he
And
owns the mud.
it has snowed on me more than once while I'm jumping into a giant pit of mud.
Mhm.
I envy you in August and early September.
And no one does in
Not in
October.
October.
No one cares. Yeah. Yep. Snows. Oh gosh. Yeah. I'm glad that PA has pushed back from August. Doing Pittsburgh in August has been a nightmare. It is so humid all the time. And I love that show. That is one of my absolute favorite shows to do. Pittsburgh is really fun because a lot of the musicians come together and we all kind of like try to one up each other at the end of the day. So like last year we did a cover of the theme from Carmen Sandiego. Like verbatim, straight out. Like we were like, oh, okay, it's like it was a children's fantasy weekend, and we're like, we're gonna do something educational. So we just did the scene for Carmen Sandiego, and it was awesome. We sounded great. But that's the kind of freedom that we get to do there. It's a ton of fun. But I couldn't walk in parades because my asthma kept acting up because it was so humid. Like it would be like 90 degrees out and just so humid I couldn't walk anywhere. Like it was insane how bad it got.
Oh yeah, I think I frustrate the costumer at Pennsylvania right now, because I run very hot as it is, and I am playing, of course, a lady,
Yeah.
and that's like 35 pounds of fabric,
Mm-hmm.
and I refuse to wear my sleeves, and it drives her nuts. She's like, "It's October. Why aren't you?" I'm like, "No, no, 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 really." Uh, because it does get really, really hot. You don't even think about it, and then you know, August, I'm wandering around, I'm sweating. Tom is a little cooler because he's wearing so much fabric. October, I'm comfortable. He's walking around. I'm like, I want to give you some of my layers.
I, to
Please
be
take
honest,
this stir.
like, you kind of get used to it.
Yeah.
The worst part is not so much doing the shows in the mud pit in October in Pennsylvania. It's when you get out of the show and you're waiting for your turn to get in the shower. That's when it's the coldest.
Yeah.
I believe it. Ugh.
When I get asked all the time too, whenever we're running around doing our shows, and I have the lightest dress I have for Chase Treasure is about 10. It'll probably end up being about 15 pounds because I'm adding some extra trim and stuff to it. So it's about 15 pounds all told. And that's the lightest dress I can wear. I wear that in July. Like it's as light as I can make it. And then my heaviest dress is about 45 pounds, but that's like the heavy material, extra fabric for underdress and stuff like that. And people are like, God, that must be exhausting. I was like, yeah, it kind of is, but like you do get used to it after a point. You just get like, okay, this is my work uniform. Okay.
And it's a great leg workout.
Oh yeah. Wearing a corset, all you can do is squats because you can't bend over. So squats.
Oh, Reverend Tommy, yeah. I don't wear shoes when I do the mud show.
Nope. That's his choice.
Well, it's also the mud I used to try to wear like sandals and stuff for the mud show, but the mud gets in behind there and just rubs my feet so much that I hate it. So I just can't. And Sally, someday I will tell the story of me streaking through a Renaissance fair while it was still open.
It's been a long time, but you weren't the only one.
No. In fact, Matt Selly was one of the others.
Yes. We have a lot of Matt Selly stories.
Oh, that's a visual I don't think I needed.
Yeah, that was at the Great Lakes Medieval Fair in Ohio back in like 2005 or 4, somewhere around in there. So
Okay.
yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I said it's been an hour and some change. Do we want to try to do a dramatic reading of something? Do we want to try to solicit some song ideas from our patrons that are hanging out?
Oh, yeah. So something that we like to do, if you would like, I will melodramatically read in strange, over-the-top voices, pop song lyrics. So if you have any particular song that you might want to have me read as like an overwrought Victorian gentleman or something like that, I would recommend that don't go to pick like funny songs already. Make them regular songs. Don't worry. When I read them, it will make that happen.
Yeah. Hunka Hunka Burning Love was shockingly good read dramatically.
Yeah, that was
And I was
weird.
wildly like, oh my
Yeah.
God, this is terrifying.
I mean, Hotel California was pretty much expected.
Yeah. There's some creepiness to it already.
I do have a story though, if you would like a story. While you guys are thinking about song lyrics, we've recently rediscovered M.R. James.
Mhm.
So if anybody is familiar with M.R. James, he was an author. He wrote right around the turn of the century. He was born in 1862, died in 1936. He did a bunch of stuff. He was like a historian and all that kind of thing. I think he was a
Translator, I
Trinity
think.
University at one point. But what he's best known for is his ghost stories. H.P. Lovecraft cites him as one of his influences and that he loved him and thought that he had some really great stuff. So I found a shorter story by him that if you would all like, I will now read. Does this work for you guys?
I'm good. I'll highlight you.
In which case, I will give to you. I've not read this yet. I've only skimmed through it really fast. So it might be a surprise to me as well. This is called Two Doctors by M.R. James, published for the first time in 1919. It is a very common thing in my experience to find papers shut up in old books, but one of the rarest things to come across any such that are at all interesting. Still, it does happen, and one should never destroy them unlooked at. Now, it was a practice of mine before the war occasionally to buy old ledgers of which the paper was good, and which possessed a good many blank leaves, and to extract these and use them for my own notes and writings. One such I purchased for a small sum in 1911. It was tightly clasped, and its boards were warped by having for years been obliged to embrace a number of extraneous sheets. 3/4 of this inserted matter had lost all vestige of importance for any living human being. One bundle had not. That it belonged to a lawyer is certain, for it is endorsed. The strangest case I have yet met, and bears initials and an address in Gray's Inn. It is only materials for a case and consists of statements by possible witnesses. The man who would have been the defendant or prisoner seems never to have appeared. The dossier is not complete, but, such as it is, it furnishes a riddle in which the supernatural appears to play a part. You must see what you can make of it. The following is the setting and the tale as I elicited. The scene is Islington in 1718, and the time of month of June. The countrified place, therefore, and a pleasant season. Dr. Abel was walking in his garden one afternoon, waiting for his horse to be brought round, that he might set out on his visits for the day. To him entered his confidential servant, Luke Jennett, who had been with him 20 years. I said I wished to speak to him, and what I had to say might take some 1/4 of an hour. He accordingly bade me into his study, which was a room opening on the terrace path where he was walking, and came in himself and sat down. I told him that, much against my will, I must look out for another place. He inquired what was my reason, in consideration I had been so long with him. I said if he would excuse me, he would do me a great kindness, because this appears to have been common form even in 1718. I was one that always liked to have everything pleasant about me. As well as I can remember, he said that that was likewise his case, but he would wish to know why I should change my mind after so many years. And says he, "You know, there can be no talk of a remembrance of you in my will if you leave my service now." I said I had made my reckoning of that. "Then," says he, "you must have some complaint to make, and if I could, I would willingly set it right." At that, I told him, not seeing how I could keep it back, the matter of my former affidavit, and of the bedstaff in the dispensing room, and said that a house where such things happened was no place for me. At which he, looking very black upon me, said no more, but called me fool, and said he would pay what was owing me in the morning, and so, his horse being waiting, went out. So for that night I lodged with my sister's husband near Battle Bridge, and came early next morning to my late master, who then made a great matter that I had not lain in his house, and stopped a crown out of my wages owing. After that I took service here and there, not for long at any time, and saw no more of him till I came to be Dr. Quinn's man at Dodd's Hall in Islington. There is one very obscure part in this statement, namely the reference to the former affidavit and the matter of the bedstaff. The former affidavit is not in the bundle of papers. It is to be feared that it was taken out to be read because of its special oddity and not put back. Of what nature the story was may be guessed later, but as yet no clue has been put into our hands. The rector of Islington, Jonathan Pratt, is the next to step forward. He furnishes particulars of the standing and reputation of Dr. Abel and Dr. Quinn, both of whom lived and practiced in his parish. "It is not to be supposed," he says, "that a physician should be a regular attendant at morning and evening prayers, or at the Wednesday lectures, but within the measure of their ability, I would say that both these persons fulfilled their obligations as loyal members of the Church of England. At the same time, as you desire my private mind, I must say, in the language of schools, distinguo. Dr. A was to me a source of perplexity. Dr. Q, to my eye, a plain, honest believer, not inquiring over closely into points of belief, but squaring his practice to what lights he had. The other interested himself in questions to which Providence, as I hold, designs no answer to be given us in this state. He would ask me, for example, what place I believed those beings now to hold in the scheme of creation, which by some are thought neither to have stood fast when the rebel angels fell, nor to have joined with them to the full pitch of their transgressions. As was suitable, my first answer to him was a question: what warrant he had for supposing any such beings exist? For that was none in the scripture. I took that he was aware of this. It appeared, for as I am on the subject, the whole tale may be given, that he grounded himself on such passages as that of the satyr which Jerome tells us conversed with Anthony, but thought too that some parts of scripture might be cited in support. And besides, said he, you know 'tis the universal belief among those that spend their days and nights abroad, and I would add that if your calling took you so continuously as it does me about the country lanes by night, you might not be surprised, as I see you by my suggestion, you are then of John Milton's mind, I said. And hold that. Millions of supernatural spiritual creatures walk the earth unseen both when we wake and when we sleep. I do not know, he said, why Milton should take upon himself to say unseen, though to be sure he was blind when he wrote that. But for the rest, why, yes, I think he was in the right. Well, I said, though not so often as you, I am not seldom called abroad pretty late, and I have no mind of meeting a satyr in our Islington lanes in all the years I have been here. And if you have had any better luck, I am sure the Royal Society would be glad to know of it. I am reminded of these trifling expressions because Dr. A took them so ill, stamping out of the room in a huff with some such words at that these high and dry parsons had no eyes but for a prayer book or a pint of wine. But this was not the only time that our conversation took a remarkable turn. There was an evening when he came in, at first seeming gay and in good spirits, but afterwards, as he sat and smoked by the fire, falling into a musing way. Out of which, to rouse him, I said pleasantly that I supposed he had no meetings of late with his odd friends. A question which did effectually arouse him, for he looked most wildly and as if scared upon me, and said, "You were never there? I did not see you. Who brought you?" And then, in a more collected tone, "What was this about a meeting? I believe I must have been in a doze." To which I answered that I was thinking of fauns and centaurs in the dark lane, and not of a witch's Sabbath, but it seemed he took it differently. "Well," said he, "I can plead guilty to neither, but I find you very much more of a skeptic than becomes your cloth. If you care to know about the dark lane, you might do worse than ask my housekeeper that lived at the other end of it when she was a child." "Yes," said I, "and the old woman in the almshouse and the children in the kennel. If I were you, I would send to your brother Quinn for a bolus to clear your brain." "Damn Quinn," says he. "Talk no more of him. He has embezzled 4 of my best patients this month. I believe it is that cursed man of his, Janet, that used to be with me. His tongue is never still. It should be nailed to the pillory if he had his deserts." This, I may say, was the only time of his showing me that he had any grudge against either Dr. Quinn or Janet, and, as was my business, I did my best to persuade him he was mistaken in them. Yet it could not be denied that some respectable families in the parish had given him the cold shoulder, and for no reason that they were willing to allege. The end was that he said he had not done so ill at Islington, but that he could afford to live at ease elsewhere when he chose, and anyhow he bore Dr. Quinn no malice. I think I now remember what observation of mine drew him into the train of thought which he next pursued. It was, I believe, my mentioning some juggling tricks which my brother in the East Indies had seen at the court of the Rajah of Mysore. "A convenient thing enough," said Dr. Abel to me, "if by some arrangement a man can get the power of communicating motion and energy to inanimate objects." "As if an axe should be moved against itself, against him that lifts it, and something of the kind?" I questioned. "Well, I don't know that was on my mind so much, but if you could summon such a volume from your shelf, or even order it to open at the right page." He was sitting by the fire. It was a cold evening, and stretched out his hand that way, and just then the fire irons, or at least the poker, fell over towards him in a great clatter, and I did not hear what else he said. But I told him that I could not easily conceive of an arrangement, as he called it, of any such kind that would not include as one of its conditions a heavier payment than any Christian would care to make. To which he assented. "But," he said, "I have no doubt these bargains can be made very tempting, very persuasive. Still, you would not favor them?" "No, I suppose not." This is as much as I know of Dr. Abel's mind, and the feeling between these men. Dr. Quinn, as I said, was a plain, honest creature, and a man to whom I would have gone. Indeed, I have before now gone to him for advice on matters of business. He was, however, every now and again, and particularly of late, not exempt from troublesome fancies. There was certainly a time when he was so much harassed by his dreams that he could not keep them to himself, but would tell them to his acquaintances, and among them to me. I was at supper at his house, and he was not inclined to let me leave him at my usual time. "If you go," he said, "there will be nothing for it but I must go to bed and dream of the chrysalis." "You might be worse off," said I. "I do not think it," he said, and shook himself like a man who is displeased with the complexion of his thoughts. "I only meant," said I, "that a chrysalis is an innocent thing." "This one is not," he said, "and I do not care to think of it." However, sooner than lose my company, he was fain to tell me, for I pressed him, that this was a dream which had come to him several times of late, and even more than once in a night. It was to this effect that he seemed to himself to wake under an extreme compulsion to rise and go out of doors. So he would dress himself and go down to his garden door. By the door there stood a spade, which he must take, and go out into the garden, and at a particular place in the shrubbery, somewhere clear, and upon which the moon shone, for there was always in his dream a full moon, he would feel himself forced to dig. And after some time the spade would uncover something light-colored, which he would perceive to be a stuff, linen or woolen, and this he must clear with his hands. It was always the same, of the size of a man, and shaped like the chrysalis of a moth, with the folds showing a promise of opening at one end. He could not describe how gladly he would have left all at this stage and run to the house, but he must not escape so easily. So, with many groans, and knowing only too well what to expect, he parted these folds of stuff, or as it sometimes seemed to be, a membrane, and disclosed a head covered with a smooth pink skin, which, breaking as the creature stirred, showed him his own face in a state of death. The telling of this so much disturbed him that I was forced out of mere compassion to sit with him the greater part of the night and talk with him upon indifferent subjects. He said that upon every reoccurrence of the dream, he woke and found himself, as it were, fighting for his breath. Another extract from Luke Jennett's long continuous statement comes in at this point. "I never told tales of my master, Dr. Abel, to anybody in the neighborhood. When I was in another service, I remember to have spoken to my fellow servants about the matter of the bedstaff. But I am sure I never said either I or he were the persons concerned, and it met with so little credit that I was affronted and thought best to keep it to myself. And when I came back to Islington and found Dr. Abel still there, I was told had left the parish, I was clear that it behooved me to use great discretion, for indeed I was afraid of the man, and it is certain I was no party to spreading any ill report of him. My master, Dr. Quinn, was a very just, honest man, and no maker of mischief. I am sure he never stirred a finger nor said a word by way of inducement to a soul to make them leave going to Dr. Abel and come to him. Nay, he would hardly be persuaded to attend them that came, until he was convinced that if he did not, they would send into the town for a physician rather than do as they had hitherto done. I believe it may be proved that Dr. Abel came into my master's house more than once. We had a new chambermaid out of Hertfordshire, and she asked me who was the gentleman that was looking after the master, that is, Dr. Quinn, when he was out, and seemed so disappointed that he was out. She said whoever he was, he knew the way of the house well, running at once into the study, and then into the dispensing room, and last into the bedchamber. I made her tell me what he was like, and what she said was suitable enough to Dr. Abel. But besides, she told me she saw the same man at church, and someone told her that was the doctor. It was just after this that my master began to have his bad nights, and complained to me and other persons, and in particular what discomfort he suffered from his pillow and bedcloths. He said he must buy some to suit him, and should do his own marketing, and accordingly brought home a parcel which he said was of the right quality, but where he bought it we then had no knowledge, only they were marked in thread with a coronet and a bird. The woman said they were of a sort not commonly met with, and very fine, and my master said they were the comfortablest he'd ever used, and he slept now both soft and deep. Also, the feather pillows were the best sorted, and his head would sink into them as if they were a cloud, which I have myself remarked several times when I came to wake him of a morning, his face being almost hid by the pillow closing over it. I never had any communication with Dr. Abel after I came back to Islington, but one day when he passed me in the street and asked me whether I was not looking for another service, to which I answered I was very well suited where I was, but he said I was a tickle-minded fellow, and he doubted not he should soon hear I was on the world again, which indeed proved true. Dr. Pratt is next taken up where he left off. On the 16th, I was called up out of my bed soon after it was light, that is about 5, with a message that Dr. Quinn was dead or dying. Making my way to his house, I found there was no doubt which was the truth. All the persons in the house, except the one that let me in, were already in his chamber and standing about his bed, but none touching him. He was stretched in the midst of the bed on his back, without any disorder, and indeed had the appearance of one ready laid out for burial. His hands, I think, were even crossed on his breast. The only thing not usual was that nothing was to be seen of his face, the two ends of the pillow or bolster appearing to have closed quite over it. These I immediately pulled apart, at the same time rebuking those present, and especially the man, for not at once coming to the assistance of his master. He, however, only looked at me and shook his head, having evidently no more hope than myself that there was anything but a corpse before us. Indeed, it was plain to anyone possessed of the least experience that he was not only dead, but had died of suffocation. Nor could it be conceived that his death was accidentally caused by the mere folding of the pillow over his face. How should he not, feeling the oppression, have lifted his hands to put it away? Whereas not a fold of the sheet, which was closely gathered about him, as I now observed, was disordered. The next thing was to procure a physician. I had bethought me of this on leaving my house, and sent on the messenger who had come to me to Dr. Abel, but I now heard that he was away from home, and the next nearest surgeon was got, who, however, could tell no more, at least without opening the body. As to any person entering the room with evil purpose, which was the next point to be cleared, it was visible that the bolts of the door were burst from their stanchions, and the stanchions broken away from the doorpost by main force. And there was a sufficient body of witness, the smith among them, to testify that this had been done but a few minutes before I came. The chamber being, moreover, at the top of the house, the window was neither easy of access, nor did it show any signs of an exit made that way, either by marks upon the sill or footprints upon the soft mud below. The surgeon's evidence forms, of course, part of the report of the inquest, but since it has nothing but remarks upon the healthy state of the larger organs and the coagulation of blood in various parts of the bodies, it need not be reproduced. The verdict was death by the visitation of God. Annexed to the other papers is one which I was at first inclined to suppose had made its way among them by mistake. Upon further consideration, I think I can divine a reason for its presence. It relates to the rifling of a mausoleum in Middlesex, which stood in a park now broken up, the property of a noble family which I will not name. The outrage was not that of an ordinary resurrection man. The object, it seemed likely, was theft. The account is blunt and terrible. I shall not quote it. A dealer in the north of London suffered heavy penalties as a receiver of stolen goods in connection with the affair. The End of Two Doctors by M.R. James.
That was so weird.
That was a weird one.
It was really odd.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I get the gist of it.
There's some moments in there that are just like, oh, and then there's juggling. And I was like, why are we talking about juggling? Like, I get where they're coming from, where they're like, oh, okay, what they're doing is basically pre-dispelling all of the possibilities of what this could be. So all you're left with is it's clearly God wreaked vengeance or whatever.
It is clearly supernatural in nature. We imply that Dr. Abel is mad that Dr. Quinn has stolen his patients and his manservant.
Yeah.
And that Dr. Abel is talking about meeting supernatural entities in the lane at night, and then tries to do a little mind trick, partially successfully. And then we find out that Dr. Quinn is having nightmares of being smothered in a chrysalis. Then we find out that Dr. Abel has been rifling through his house when he's not there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, sure enough, Dr. Quinn ends up suffocated in a bedchamber chrysalis. So, pretty neat.
That was ridiculous. Mine's shorter.
You got one?
I do. And I figured maybe I could do mine real quick because it's only it's less than 1,000 words. And you could scan the comments and see what songs you might want to do.
All right.
I highly recommend the one that Lady Jedi put up. I think that one's real fun. I think you're going to like it.
All right, focus on you, and I'll go look for that.
Okay, let me highlight myself. Woo! I get to highlight myself, but this one is super short. Cool. I just edited this one. Let me pull it up. Do I have it here? No, I have it. Nope, there it is. Okay. I wrote this back in 2020. And apparently I was going through a lot of emotional breakups with people that I cared about. I don't know specifically all of the stuff that is entailed in this, but I read through it just on a whim, and I was like, you know what, actually this is really good. So this is going to go out to my Patreon members as well, and then it will be recorded probably by Tom, and he will do this for Patreon too. So this is called On the Day I Killed You. On the day I killed you, I watched forensic files for hours. I did my laundry. I put away the dishes reluctantly. I avoided all the work I was supposed to do, put it off. I pretended simultaneously that I needed the space to process what would happen and that I was unaffected and cold. On the day I killed you, I lit a candle to Ogun. The lady at the occult shop told me that he is a way opener, a smoother of pathways. It seemed appropriate if it was true. I lit it so many times before, thinking about you and what I've gone through with you in orbit of you. I prayed to it so often that the whole candle was burnt down to the last black inch. Even then, I burned it using the long Bic lighter I use for the grill. On the day I killed you, I consulted with the proper authorities in advance. I made sure I knew what to say, practiced how to say it. If I murdered you with words, I would do so efficiently and smoothly. No one deserves to suffer like I have. Not even you. On the day I killed you, I went to work. The restaurant only became crowded at 7 p.m. I busied myself with nothing and everything, rolling silverware and bussing tables, trying not to fixate on the details. The murder would occur the way I set out, and I'd just have to deal with the fallout, the consequences. I think that was what I was most worried about. Who would still be in my corner the day after I killed you? My adrenaline kicked in 100 times on the day I killed you. My hands got so shaky I couldn't hold a glass for more than a few seconds. I could no longer tell if I was excited or scared or nervous or determined. It felt like I was about to run a race, like I was hungover and about to throw up again, like I could hit the highest note in my repertoire without thinking. All of it, and all at once. On the day I killed you, I reminded myself why I would kill you. All the times I had been wronged by you and your actions, all the times you forgot, told me I was misremembering, or pretended nothing was wrong. They say it's not like pulling off a Band-Aid when the time comes. It's like re-breaking a limb to set it properly, or having surgery on your hand or foot. The healing will take ages, but you won't be able to walk if it isn't done. You have to go on walking. You have to go on living. On the day I killed you, I remembered the good things too. The times we cried in each other's arms, the joy we'd shared together. I have no regrets about those times. I refuse to regret those times. But I will not regret this murder either. On the day I killed you, I murdered part of myself too. The part that still loved you and wanted you to succeed and feel fulfilled. The part that belonged to you. The piece of me that festered and decayed while attached to you. The sliver of me that dreaded when you walked into the room, hiding my revulsion and steeling myself for conflict. The part that questioned whether I was safe today or not. The part that tried to pretend everything was perfectly sane and normal. I carved all of that out with the same knife I used to kill you. I hollowed out parts of myself and threw the bloody chunks into oblivion. I will never feel those things again for anyone. I will never care how you feel ever again. On the day I killed you, you knew it was coming. I walked straight up to you, looked you in the eye as I slit your throat. You said, I sort of knew this was coming, but I know you like to be thorough. It took seconds. You bled out so quickly I didn't even need to blink. I kept my eyes on you the whole time. It's been 3 days, and I still wonder if you'll come back to haunt me. If you booby-trapped something I wasn't prepared for, or poisoned someone against me. Even now, I'm not sure if I'll discover something in a month that will spring out to strike me dead in vengeance. It hasn't happened yet, but that's not to say it won't. I'm hoping that's anxiety. I hope you'll rest in peace. I want you to stay dead. Ta-da! Breakup anthem. That was intense. Sorry.
Should I be cautious when I go to sleep tonight? Is that what
No. No.
I should worry about?
No, it's not about you, babe. You're fine. You made dinner for me. Well, not today, but you made a pot roast the other day, so I can't kill you. You make my pot roast. But that was
So look for that on our Patreon, friends.
Yes, that was intense. But important. And I felt like I had to get that out. So for better or worse.
I saw on here that, and I feel like I really have to do this one.
Okay, you want to do?
It's Julie Andrews. Julie Andrews, The Hills Are Alive.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's short, but I feel like I have to do this one.
Okay, and Dana, I will say part of the fun is us reacting through the whole thing. So if you want to stay on camera for this one, it might be kind of fun. All right, I will highlight you.
All right, this is The Hills Are Alive by Julie Andrews.
Great.
Trying to figure out how I want to do it. Okay. The hills are alive with the sound of music, with songs they have sung for 1,000 years. The hills fill my heart with the sound of music. My heart wants to sing every song it hears. My heart wants to beat like the wings of the birds that rise from the lake to the trees. My heart wants to sigh like a chime that flies from a church on a breeze. To laugh like a brook when it trips and falls over the stones on its way. To sing through the night like a lark who is learning to pray. I go to the hills when my heart is lonely. I know I will hear what I've heard before. My heart will be blessed with the sound of music. And I'll sing once more.
Oh,
There you
boy.
go.
This is why we do this. I loved the hills are alive. That was
Yes.
that was great.
That was beautiful.
So that was The Hills Are Alive by Julie Andrews.
As sung by Julie Andrews. I think it's a different people that
Yeah, it's somebody else wrote it. The
as sung by
thing I
her.
pulled up just had her name attributed to it as the
Sure.
artist. Oh my. Well, friends, that pretty much brings us to the end of the evening here.
Wait, can you do the silly one, please?
Do the which one?
Can you do the it's diggy dig something? Diggy dig
Diggy
hole.
Diggy dig hole. All right. All right. All right, I'll do this.
I read the lyrics very briefly to this, and it's very I'm curious to see your interpretation.
You've got to listen to the song because the song is very intense. It's hysterical.
I have never.
I've never heard it before.
No, but it's. Huh. I'm scanning through it real quick.
It's very not 21 appropriate.
It will be incredibly stereotypical of me to read it as with a Scottish accent, so I won't.
Actually, I think it actually came out of something that was done on Minecraft, which is even funnier.
What about a German accent?
Could you? I can do it as a German accent, sure. All right, here we go.
German dwarves. Here we go.
So this is Diggy Diggy Hole. That I know nothing. Created by the video game network Yogscast. Okay, that's where it's from.
Okay.
All right. So Diggy Diggy Hole by Wind Rose. All right. Brothers of mine, rejoice! Swing, swing, swing with me. Raise your picks and raise your voice. Sing, sing, sing with me. Down and down into the deep. Who knows what we'll find beneath? Diamonds, rubies, gold, and more hidden in the mountain store. Born underground, suckled from a teat of stone, raised in the dark, the safety of our mountain home. Skin made of iron, steel in our bones. To dig and dig, make us free. Come on, brothers, sing with me. I am a dwarf, and I'm digging a hole. Diggy, diggy hole, diggy, diggy hole. I am a dwarf, and I'm digging a hole. Diggy, diggy hole, digging a hole. The sunlight will not reach this low, deep, deep in the mine. Never seen the blue moon glow. Dwarves won't fly so high. Fills a glass and down some mead. Stuff your bellies at the feast. Stumble home and fall asleep, dreaming in our mountain keep. Born underground, grown inside a rocky womb. The earth is our cradle, the mountains shall become our tomb. Face us on the battlefield, you will meet your doom. We do not fear what lies beneath. We can never dig too deep. I am a dwarf, and I'm digging a hole. Diggy, diggy hole, diggy, diggy hole. I am a dwarf, and I'm digging a hole. Diggy, diggy hole, digging a hole. Born underground, suckled from a teat of stone. Raised in the dark, the safety of our mountain home. Skin made of iron, steel in our bones. To dig and dig makes us free. Come on, brothers. Sing with me. And everyone now. I am a dwarf, and I'm digging a hole. Diggy, diggy hole, diggy, diggy hole. I am a dwarf, and I'm digging a hole. Diggy, diggy hole, digging a hole.
Okay, that was worth it though. That was worth it.
It's beautiful.
That opening moment of like, brothers, sing with me. I was like, oh God. Oh,
The
I made
next
the right
time that
choice.
comes up on my playlist, I'm just going to hear your voice.
Okay, good. Dracula's stepdaughter, you went to a LARP based on that song? Oh
That's
my.
ridiculous.
Oh, that's got to be a thing.
Oh, LARPs are based off of practically anything. I've done several.
Wow.
God. Oh, that was good. That was good.
That
Thank
was
you.
fantastic.
Thank you for doing that for me and for Dana for suggesting it.
Oh, it was run by Mike Nustel?
Oh God.
Oh,
Alex. There are some good folks.
Friends, thank you so much for joining us on this our intermission episode here at Gothic Horror Gaming. We're just a reminder, we are not around next week. We're totally dark, but then the week after that, Handler Z will be running her next Delta Green game. That'll be Wednesday at 9 p.m. right back here. Lady Dana Mom over here. Thank you so much for joining us. You'll be playing in that game as well, I believe.
Yes.
yep. Thanks for having me.
We want to thank our perpetual sponsor, RenAdventures.com. If you want to tour around Europe with Renaissance Fair performers who speak whatever language of the country you're in, very often Italy, but you should be sure to check out Ren Adventures. But the one they're plugging right now that's coming up relatively soon, July 7th through 14th, Dungeons & Dragons Castle Tours, England, Scotland, tour the castle by day, play D&D in it at night. Go to renadventures.com. I think there's only one ticket left from what I was told. Also, we're going to plug ourselves. We have our own Patreon called Quill and Quote, where Handler Z writes the scary, spooky stories and poetry, science fiction, that sort of thing. I narrate them. We have a compilation of a book, Dare, a collection of the first group of stories that we did. You can either get it in paperback, you can get it as Kindle, or you can get the audiobook version that I narrate, that Handler Z actually reads some of her poetry on as well.
I do.
So please check us out. Check out our Patreon at quillandquote.com. If you sign up for that, you'll get our stories. Become a patron on there. You'll get our stories in advance and the audio versions as well, some behind the scenes stuff. And we've started a new venture.
Oh, the TikTok thing?
Yes.
Okay, I was going to put that up too, but I wanted to make sure that we promoted some of Dana's stuff because she just put a bunch of stuff out too. Yeah, we are on TikTok. Please follow us at Quill and Quote. You can find us on TikTok where we are doing funny things, kind of like what you just saw, where Tom dramatically reads the backs of labels on common household items. He will read no longer under copyright material from the early 1900s. And he reads some of our stuff too, which is pretty cool. So we're doing a fair bit of all of that. We've already picked out our next couple of items for things. Yes, the shampoo bottle. Thank you. I'm glad that you enjoyed that one.
Oh, there's a lot more to come.
Oh yeah,
We recorded a bunch already.
I have like 10 sitting out right now, not including the outtakes.
We're trying to throw out one a
got
day.
Like another 6 more. So yeah, they're real fun. But yeah, hey, Dana, what do you do?
I've got a couple things going on. So we recently launched hatefulheifers.com, which is a restaurant review site. Go ahead and check it out. Mostly local, Lancaster, Philadelphia. Go ahead and most of us, actually all of us, on that site are Ren Fair performers as well. But also, and I would be a terrible assistant director if I did not mention this, we just announced auditions for the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair. Go to parenfair.com/auditions. Blackfire auditions are on the 12th of February. And then the Bacchanalians, I believe, are on the 15th and 16th, which is that Saturday and Sunday location to be announced. If you have any questions, reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to answer some questions. Very happy. We're going to be working with some great people. The directors I'm working with this year are fantastic. You might know them, Joe Penn and Matt Sully. So the three of us are very, very excited for this year.
It's going to be awesome.
And didn't we have the one of the other directors of the staff, Jeff Wolfall? He did a game for us, didn't he?
He did.
Yep.
Oh gosh, it's been a while, but he did the game that I ran in Mexico, and he was the only person who died.
Yeah.
Yep, Jeff is the improv director, and Alex, who's also Nat 21, is
And
the
he's been on
company
our
director.
show before too.
Yep, also very, very active at the Ren Fair, and he's part of Hateful Heifers.
Yay!
So if you can't get enough of Alex Stompoli in your life, there's
He also
another
has
way.
a show coming up, I think, this weekend, but I thought it was sold out.
There are still tickets for Friday, I believe.
Okay.
So Friday night, I know I'm going to be there. A few other people
that's
from cast are
tempting.
going to be there on Friday.
That's very
I don't know
tempting.
why we like Friday nights, but Alex is doing his drag show.
That's how much are tickets for those? Just actually curiosity.
55, I want to
Okay.
say. Totally worth it. There's like snacks and such, and the bar will be open. It's at the Barn and Barrel. So if you haven't been at the Barn and Barrel, you get at the Pennsylvania
Love the space.
Renaissance Fair. You get to see that also, which is a beautiful venue.
Mhm.
And
Well, friends.
I've seen the gown for this weekend. It's going to be
Ooh.
gorgeous.
Ooh.
I'm very excited.
Well, friends, that's about it for me. That's about all I can do. I'm getting a little tired here, but
Same.
it's been a rough couple of days. Those, if you know, you know. Sleep wise, anyway. But thank you so much for joining us. We are going to take next week off.
Yes.
And then because we'll be traveling to Florida to do the Florida Renaissance Fair. But then the next week after that, we will be starting back up Wednesday from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. coming to you from Florida. We'll be in Kissimmee broadcasting from there. So have a great night, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.